I moved into the apartment on a Thursday, drawn by its low rent and proximity to work. The place itself showed every sign of neglect: peeling paint, crooked floors, a kitchen straight out of the 1970s. The landlord handed over the keys and hurried off, unwilling to linger. From the start, something felt off. A faint, musty odor permeated the rooms, reminding me of damp wood left out in bad weather. The furniture, sparse and worn, seemed to tell a story of countless previous tenants who never truly settled in. In the hallway stood a tall, gold-framed mirror with intricate carvings around its edges. Dust and smudges dulled the glass, and it felt oddly misplaced, like it belonged in a grand estate rather than this run-down unit. Unease rippled through me whenever I passed by. The first night offered no comfort. An oppressive silence made each tiny creak of the floorboards jolt my nerves. Sleep refused to come easily, and I felt a prickling awareness, as though unseen eyes followed my every move. On the second day, I tried to force normalcy into the space. While cleaning, I confronted that mirror first. Grime wiped away, revealing my own reflection, yet something about it seemed different. Too attentive, too focused. At times, it felt as though my reflection had a life of its own. At night, the sense of being watched intensified. Insomnia crept in. By the third evening, flickers of movement in my peripheral vision kept drawing my gaze to the hallway. Shadows and shapes seemed to flit across the mirror's surface. I wanted to believe it was a trick of light, yet dread weighed on me like a physical burden. Late into that third night, I glanced at the mirror from my bed and realized I wasn't seeing my own features. Another face stared back, distorted, wearing an expression that no part of me would ever claim. A mouth twisted into a subtle, unnatural grin and eyes that refused to blink. In an instant, it vanished, leaving me doubting my own senses. Sleep became impossible. Dawn offered no comfort. I stood before the mirror in daylight, my reflection once again normal. Yet my instincts warned me something malevolent lurked inside that glass. In a desperate attempt to shield myself, I threw a sheet over the mirror, hoping out of sight would mean out of mind. The tactic didn't help. All day, the apartment felt suffocating, as though the air in the hallway had grown heavier. By nightfall, anxiety overcame me. Light stayed on in every room, and yet fear prickled at the edge of each shadow. A rhythmic tapping sound began near midnight, emanating from the mirror's direction. The gentle, persistent knocks on glass drew me forward against my better judgment. Even covered, the mirror seemed alive. When I finally lifted the sheet, the reflection again appeared normal. Only the tension in the air refused to dissipate. My reflection leaned closer, even though I remained still, a reminder that I was no longer in control. A cold, distant voice invaded my thoughts, as though it emerged from inside the mirror, and the smile on its face sharpened into something predatory. Panic surged. I retreated to my room, barricading the door, but there was no real safety in that apartment. By morning, I knew I had to leave, no matter the penalty. Yet when I tried to open the front door, an unseen force held it shut. Behind me, faint tapping resumed. I felt compelled to look back at the mirror, where a menacing version of my own face glowered at me, intent on preventing my escape. An unspoken declaration hovered in the atmosphere. I was trapped. Then, as suddenly as the door had jammed, it released. I sprinted into the hallway and down the stairs, fleeing into the street. Though I left the apartment behind, a gnawing certainty followed me. I suspected that whatever inhabited the mirror had no intention of letting me walk away unscathed. In a friend's home, I tried to move on, refusing to speak of the details. At first, nights were calm enough to lull me into a false sense of security. But I soon noticed the same cold presence manifesting in windows and reflective surfaces, empty shapes looming behind me whenever I glimpsed my own face. My sleep was plagued by images of the gold-framed mirror in the hallway, the faint tapping returning in my dreams. Unable to ignore the terror any longer, I researched the building's history. An old newspaper clipping hinted at a previous resident who had vanished without explanation. Neighbors once heard tapping, strange laughter, and late-night murmurs. The same gold-framed mirror remained after the disappearance. Nothing else had been left behind. Reading this account provided a bitter confirmation of my ordeal. Desperate, I confided in my friend. Practicality won out over fear, prompting a plan to rid the world of this cursed object. We returned to the apartment at night, armed with tools to destroy the mirror. The walk through the stale, silent corridors was suffocating. The mirror stood exactly as before, its ornate frame eerily pristine, as though anticipating our arrival. We set upon the glass with hammer and crowbar, cracks spread like lightning across its surface, accompanied by a low hum that vibrated through the entire hallway. Our own reflections warped, becoming twisted parodies of us, clawing at the glass from within. A hideous energy pulsed, forcing us backward as a shrill, inhuman screech filled the air. The mirror shattered in a burst of light, shards falling around us in a rain of crystal fragments. In the aftermath, the hallway lay covered in glittering splinters, and an unsettling silence replaced the wailing shriek. Though we believed the mirror destroyed, a soft whisper persisted, radiating from the largest shard on the floor. Within it, indistinct shapes shifted beneath the surface, as though a doorway to something else remained. We fled, escaping the apartment and never looking back. Yet later, an odd glow emanated from the second-story window, hinting that our act might not have severed all ties. Restlessness haunted us for days. Late one night, a missed call on my phone appeared from an unknown number. The voicemail carried only static, and then my own voice warning me not to look behind. Dread coiled in my gut as I sensed another presence in the room, just out of sight, unwilling to relinquish its hold on me. From that moment on, I realized no amount of distance would fully separate me from the mirror or the malignant force dwelling within its fractured remains. Even in shattered pieces, it seemed capable of bridging the gap between its world and mine. Fear settled into my life, a permanent reminder of whatever lurks within reflections, watching, waiting, and never truly letting go.